Good evening. Welcome to the July 13th, 2022 Abington Finance Committee meeting. As you can see, we are very well populated here in the building tonight. We do have two of our committee members here attending virtually, Russ Fuller and Daniel Petty. And we have myself and Paul Haggerty here in person. We do not have a quorum, but we do have a necessity for meeting. So we are invoking the rule of necessity for the meeting. And we'll be skipping our, most of our agenda. We'll be skipping our reorganization until our next meeting. We'll move right into year-end transfers, which need to be done by the 15th. So we will be invoking the rule of necessity to get those transfers done and taken care of. We have our town manager, Scott Landiasi, with us. We also have our town accountant and finance director, Andrew Norcon. Andrew, thanks for coming and joining us here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Scott, thanks for coming. Do you want to lead right in, guys, to this? Let's
yeah, I think we'll
move these through.
Yeah, let Andrew kind of read them down, and I may jump in just to help out with some of the explanations and the reasons why. Maybe you can give a quick overview on why we do this and how we come about it.
Russ and Daniel, if you guys have any questions, just jump right in.
Okay, thanks.
All right, just as a little bit of background, the reason we do this is because sometimes during the year when departments run over their budgets, we are not allowed to do so by Mass General laws. So the state has us transfer money from other accounts which have surpluses in them to cover those deficits. I do have a list here that I can start going through that should cover.
And Andrew, can I just add, so you can't take money from a salary account to cover some expenses without getting proper approval?
Correct.
Okay.
And that is because town meeting had appropriated this money in a certain fashion.
Right.
And in order to do that, we come to this group for approval, and then we also go to the board of selectmen, which we did on Monday night for their approval.
Okay.
So when we go and present the budget to the town, each line has amounts, and they may not vote individually on each line, but they're voting on the amounts in the lines. And to go from category to category is not okay.
Right.
To do within the fiscal year, so we have to come and do these transfers at the end of the year to make the books balance.
Correct.
And it's just, and obviously Andrew, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just balancing the books. We're not, we didn't run out of money and we're not borrowing or taking anything out of stabilization or anything of that sort. It's all money that we have in one line item or another that we're using to cover expenditures in a different line item.
That's correct.
Staying within the balanced budget.
Correct. As a matter of fact, there should be a bit left over that will actually end up in free cash next year. So we did work under our budget.
Excellent.
And one thing that's important to know is the reason that, you'll see the very first line there that we have an excess amount in is the police salaries, where we'll be drawing quite a bit out of this. Mm-hmm. The police, for reasons as I think we've all talked about quite a bit, it's just because they just down that many people. Probably represents at least the police officers at that amount.
And these are expenses we've already incurred.
Correct.
Yes.
And it just, and generally, they're all round numbers. So how does that work? Like at what point? So if you're saying I'm taking $310,000 from this salary account and I'm going to allocate it to these other, how do you, because there's a lot of, 27,000, 10,000, 100,000. How do you come up with these numbers?
Right. So I do reporting, and it tells me exactly how much is gone from those accounts. And if there's pending activity, I can estimate that. I can contact vendors or talk to departments to see how much is left that they need to be covered.
Okay. So this is your best estimate at this time?
Correct.
And then maybe at some point in August or early September, where you say, okay, we might need to move some other funds also.
I hope not to
Yeah.
be in that situation.
I think we did find that last year, there was the
Yeah.
health insurance trust fund that we had to move some money into. And the reason we do it earlier than later is so it doesn't show up on recap, is that?
The sooner we can get it done, the better. There is a July 15th deadline according to the Mass General laws. So,
And the year does close out June 30th.
right.
So we know for the most part what we've spent and what the amounts that are left in each of the various accounts are. There's the occasional, which for people at home, they'll see on town meeting warrants for the special town meeting. Often there'll be an unpaid bill from last year because something comes in late or something of that nature. So those things aren't factored into this. But most of the business for the fiscal year is done at this point.
Right.
To Paul's question, though, I think in most other years when we've been doing this, the dollar amounts have not been as round as these. Have you just kind of rounded?
Yeah, I did that for ease.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You guys can move it.
Yep.
So this is Daniel Eddy asking this question. Will we see in next year's budget, when we all start hanging out again together, that the police salaries will have the number that we budgeted, but then the actual that's $310K less, and then these other line items will show an actual,
No,
or a budgeted number, but an actual that's increased by what we're moving into these line items?
no, because this is a budget closeout. The numbers that you'll start seeing in next year's budget would be a whole new set of numbers. So this won't affect the budget that started on July 1. This has no bearing on that whatsoever.
So Daniel, I think I understand the question that you're asking. What we have typically seen in the documents that we have gotten have been the previous year's budget, the year before that's budget. What we've gotten in those is the amount that was voted for the line item, not necessarily the amount that was spent. I think in some instances.
No, I think we did that last year. We ended up
last year
updating
we
the
got,
Yep. I see
for
what
the
you want.
first time, we got the budgeted and expended. So
Right.
I think the question,
Yeah.
I think Daniel's question is, will this 310,000 count towards the expenditure for the police salary line item in how we record it?
So when we do
I'm
the next
guessing-
budget,
I'm guessing no, and Andrew's shaking his head, so no is the answer. It won't count as police expenditure.
Yeah, because this has
Okay,
no
good.
budgetary impact, this is just actual.
Yes.
Yep,
So
that's all.
when we see the actual,
Yeah, right.
when we're starting to do the fiscal year 24 budget,
Yeah.
we'll be looking at the actuals for 22.
and you'll see that
We'll see that the police salary expenditure was at least 310,000 less than what was budgeted for.
Right.
And then we'll also see all these others were, that amount higher. Than
Correct, yes.
Cool, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, good question.
And then Andrew, can you just clarify for me, so for according to Mass General Law, it requires the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee to approve these? Does it require like the department? So, if we're taking $310,000 out of the salary line item in the police, does that require it?
It does require department head approval.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
To my knowledge, everyone has been informed. So we're not just taking it.
That's good. So we want to run down the different lines and where we're taking from and what we're putting to.
Sure, I'll read through the list. The first proposed transfer is from police salaries in the amount of $310,000 to a variety of accounts. The first account is town manager salaries, $27,000. And the reason for that is the budget was for a part-time admin assistant, but that employee is now full-time.
I'm going to pause you real quick because this was the first one that flagged my attention. Did we budget that full-time?
Yeah, what we did is
The
some of
23
that,
budget?
some of those salaries were in different line items like zoning and conservation and,
It's kind of all over the board.
yeah.
because
So we have,
the admin was doing work for a bunch of different departments.
right, so it's just that we had reallocated it and probably, at the same time, we didn't move it all over into the town manager section.
So was that considered for the FY23 budget?
It was.
Okay.
That's why I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure of that, because I was pretty sure that we did that. Like, my memory was ticking that we did that, but I wanted to make sure. So thanks. Sorry, Andrew, please keep going.
Assessor's salaries for $7,500. That's for a leave payout for one employee. Treasurer collector salaries, $10,500. That's leave payout for two employees.
Can you just, when you say leave payout, what exactly is that?
So accrued paid time off. That's
Is that vacation? Would it also include?
In some cases, it also includes a percentage of their sick time accrued, correct?
Depend on their bargaining agreement, correct?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
the next item is town council expenses for $60,000. That's because of higher than anticipated expenditure this year.
And what we
We use town council more than we
Yeah.
expected.
well, yeah,
So typically, so what we had this year, that we haven't, had in a while, but not only did we had three, bargaining units that all had to, be renewed all at one time that we've been working on. And then we also had, the issue over at 10 Railroad, which is that large factory building, that we've had some legal issues with the owners as far as keeping them and getting them into compliance, where we've had to go into court and had many letters back and forth on that one. And we've had some other issues with Labor Council that have created this. We did appropriate more money at this town meeting for that, but the other things that we've done, are a lot of the new trainings, review of the personnel policies, putting the personnel plan together, that's all come out of the legal expense too. But these are things that absolutely were put off for way too long that we had to take care of.
okay. And we increased the budget in FY23, so we didn't really anticipate these things when we were preparing the budget FY22.
No, we didn't.
I know the
We
investigation
certainly,
stuff you
the issues that had arose, we did not anticipate, no. I was really thinking that we would just be dealing with contractual agreements, but those actually take quite a bit of time.
Okay.
Andrew?
The next item is planning board salaries, $18,000. The employee was budgeted at 19 hours per week and is now working 29 hours per week. Building inspection salaries, $21,000. That's for the leave payout of one employee and extra part-time help during the year. Weights and measures expense, $1,000 for higher equipment costs.
I gotta ask, because it's $1,000. What's the equipment?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Counterweights.
That what-
The product.
also
most likely.
countermeasures.
The products they use though would be weights, and vessels, and, I know he also has to do a certain amount of, continuing education.
Okay.
That would have gone into the expense item too.
Thank you.
The next item is waste collection expenses, $100,000. And that's for higher disposal and fuel costs.
Greg's not here, so we don't have to get into that one.
Yeah.
We know. I'm sure it'll be a hot topic again in future meetings.
Is that actually like I know it's $100,000, but is that better than expected?
To a certain extent, yeah, I think it is, but there was the end of the year fuel surcharges that I think weren't as expected, but the other part of it, I did kind of get that feeling as we started getting, our bills in that we were going to be short on that one now. But I think we're in a much better place. I think we were a little more aggressive as we went through this recent budget cycle, but I don't think we're going to be having a
So
problem.
is the fuel cost in the contract, like an average fuel?
No, well, there is a provision in there that if it gets beyond a certain point that they can charge us, the difference. And it obviously did. Plus, there's a tie to the consumer price index in the tipping cost. Is it the tipping cost part of it? But
Yeah.
and there's an accelerator in there that's tied to that, and that's obviously been a bit of an issue lately.
Yeah, the bill will increase by CPIU as of July 1st, so that's expensive.
So we think we have planned well for that in the
It's not
future,
expensive right now.
but we'll see. We'll see next year.
Council on Aging salaries, $15,000. There was an employee that was being paid out of the grant money, but is now being paid out of the general fund.
And is that was budgeted for in FY23?
I believe we did move that over, yeah.
Yeah, this should be all set.
Okay.
Veteran salaries for $14,000, and that was the stipend for the veterans assistant.
And
So,
that's
so what does a stipend mean? Because I know we had approved the salary or the cost for this assistant.
Well, that's, yeah, so what we approved for will be going forward from July 1 this year. And we're in the process of interviewing for that veteran services assistant. This is a stipend that the person who's actually been doing the accounting work for us, who's already in the accounting department, was previously given a stipend for doing this work, and I just don't think we had it in the budget. We didn't carry it over last year. That stipend, once the new person is hired, will go away. So the stipend it's pay, but it's not salary pay. Stipend is if you're doing something extra.
Yep.
And then when you no longer do it. Whereas if we had increased somebody's salary, it'd be a lot harder to take it away.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
The next item is unemployment for $24,000. The expenditures for that were a lot higher than expected this year. And Medicare for $12,000. You notice the leave payouts.
Yep.
Those were the main driver there.
Okay. Any questions on that section? Russ, Daniel, Paul? All right.
I'm good, thank you.
Do you want to approve them one at a time, or?
I think we can improve at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
If
Just
something comes up in the next 3 sections that
We'll skip back.
that people don't approve, we can go back.
Okay.
I think we're going to be okay.
That was the easy one.
The second proposed transfer is from elections salaries, $6,000, to town clerk salaries for $2,000, town clerk expenses for $3,000, and registrar's expenses for $1,000. So what's going on there is there's a census project going on that's causing a lot of extra hours to be booked and postage costs and materials.
And we had money left in election salaries. We don't often have money left in election salaries. So that's my only question there.
But I think we had a lighter than the previous year's election year.
Okay.
And I think we had made sure that we had it funded because not knowing what was going on with mail-in and all of that. And
That's
just,
a good point.
and just to
We had
note,
extra money in there.
yeah, and I think we also put extra money in, knowing next year's cycle is going to be a little bigger.
Yep.
That when we say town clerk salaries, town clerk expenses, this is obviously the workers that she's hired to do this project.
Yep.
What's the budget? Like,
The census, it's the annual census. No, not the annual, it's the
I was gonna say,
How often do we do it?
I don't think it's annual. It's
10 years?
Is it the federal one?
Yeah.
It's every 10 years.
but didn't we do
Isn't that
that like a
2020?
couple of years ago?
This is,
It's-
all stuff lingering from it.
Yeah, so when it goes out, then they come back in and like right now what's
So it's
happening.
like the results and then the federal government pushes the stuff out and then you have to do
Yeah,
something.
and there's still folks who like haven't done it, and then so that makes them come off of the voter roll, so they have to be notified, and if they don't respond, we have to notify them again. It's just, Leanne would probably be happy to explain the process, but she told me it was terrible. So they are working on it, and they're working diligently, but it took them a little bit more more time.
The third proposed transfer is from highway expenses, $25,000, to highway salaries for $25,000. That's a leave payout for one more employee.
And can I just ask, is, you had made note of in the Medicare employee share of leave payouts. Is that $12,000 include that?
Yes.
Okay.
The final proposed transfer is from water expenses, $1,000, to water salaries, $1,000. And they spent a little bit more money on police details this year.
Was that the water main repair project? Probably.
Yeah, I would say most likely. Probably didn't help. And again, that one comes out of, and then it's all within their enterprise.
Right, that's separate from the general fund.
Russ, Daniel, any questions on any of those?
No, thanks, I'm good.
Any of the transfers at all?
Oh,
Paul?
No?
All right. I think we're
I
good.
love the way, I agree with you, the way you rounded these things up rather than dealing with like 27.
You didn't want the 25 cents at the end?
Yeah, we definitely have had
$512.16.
like $27,914.82.
Yeah.
In previous years.
I think
past.
that's
We
what
went
we did in
very,
September.
Oh, we did, I was sitting there.
We went very, very
You read them
exactly.
off and I'm like, I just stopped, like, I'm not keeping track of these, it's like, it's a number. Yeah, so this is great.
Andrew's way's better, fine.
All right, so, is there a motion to approve the year-end transfers?
I'll make a motion to approve the FY22 year-end transfers as noted, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
We have a
Second.
motion, is there a second? Daniel is seconding. Motion and a second, any further discussion on the year-end transfers? All right, all those in favor of approval of the year-end transfers?
Aye?
Aye. All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. The year-end transfers are approved. Andrew, thank you for your time and for all of the work that went into preparing this. We
Thank you.
very much appreciate it.
And if you had a quorum, Andrew and I would give you a little bit of an update on what's going on. Actually, I think we'll have to do this, we'll have to give you this update anyways.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we've had a working group that started meeting on what to do with our American Recovery Plan Act money. We have some smaller, one-off projects that we're taking care of.
Can I just ask a procedural question?
Oh, was there something else in there?
Well, no, it's just, is this on the agenda?
This is not on the.
I'm not trying to be, I just don't want to.
So this could technically be considered either a liaison report or correspondence.
Okay. essentially.
I'm your liaison to the Board of Selectmen.
You are.
Yes, you are. Yep, okay, you are a guest.
So,
Duly noted. Yep. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We wanna do something in order tonight.
yes.
So the idea, and I've talked with this group several times about the American Recovery Plan Act money and what we want to do with it. We're finally moving on it. The working group's got to put together a comprehensive plan with some of the larger items and the larger spending things that we'll bring to the full Finance Committee for I guess not so much for approval, but just to make sure that you guys are all on board with what we're doing, and the same with the Board of Selectmen, that we want to make sure that, you know, everybody is on board and we're doing the best that we think we can do with the money. The capital plan is pretty close to being done. I will try and, I think certainly before this group meets again, it should be finished. So I will make sure, once we get out of this last draft, I'll get you all a copy of it. It is a fairly robust plan, and we're going to have to come up with an idea on how we want to start funding that plan. The good news to that is we do have a fair good amount of seed money, whether it be part of the American Recovery Plan Act money. We have money, about $600,000 from the sale of land from last year or 2 years ago.
It happened in this past fiscal year.
Yeah, so we can use it next fiscal year, right? And we also have our money coming in, sort of the first payment from Bud's Emporium will be coming. Somewhere around $297,000 I expect to get next week.
Is that just short of $1 million?
Well, if you add that to the other
Million.
300,000 that we already got, we're somewhere in the six, but yeah, it's still shy of $1 million. But it's
And
coming.
Greg's not here.
I had to ask for Greg.
We don't have to.
Greg would
grow,
have an
Scott.
S at the end of the million.
Yes. Yes,
I
that
do
is
appreciate you
Greg's
keeping
plan.
it to 1 million. So that also leads us, the Senate Ways and Means Committee budget is somewhere close to $200,000 beyond the governor's budget in revenue. So depending on where that all flushes out, there could be some other unrestricted government aid money that we would have. So looking at some of these things and looking at some other issues that we have, we are possibly considering a fall town meeting. We're going to want to appropriate certainly the $300,000 probably from Bud's, and if we find out that the budget coming down from the state is higher than we expected, anticipated, it'd be good to use that and start appropriating that money, as well as I do feel that the fire station / DPW project is starting to move forward in that likely be ready for some sort of town meeting action in the fall, whether it be just to supplement the funding for it or to change the way that we appropriated it. I think we supplement, we change the appropriation to allow us to do the study phase of the DPW with some of the monies that was already there. Right now, it's approved for design for fire station. Not sure that we might need to do more if we're going to design one huge facility. There's also the possibility of that if we wanted to do both the projects, we would prefer to do the DPW portion of the project first, which means that, we would want to do the funding for that. So there's some things up in the air, but there's quite a possibility that we would be looking to start meeting in September. I think we also want to start meeting earlier this year. We had talked about that, where if we want to continue to follow the charter and have town meeting when it's called for, then we're going to have to start a little bit earlier. Andrew's got some great ideas as far as budget books and how we're going to proceed next year. I think, we're trying each year to give you guys as much information and find out every little bit more that you want. And as Daniel pointed out, it's going to be nice to have what, now you'll have like 2 years of previous activity of, you know, what was asked for, what was expended, as we go through the cycle, so.
To that point, is there a way we can, when you look at the different departments, like, you know, we've got a $60 million budget, we've got 17 million sitting in retirement and benefits, and yet we leave that there. It's like, can we allocate that to the departments so you actually get a true what the cost is?
We can try playing it.
Because that's the thing I was like, when I was looking at it, it's like a $63 million budget. We got 17 million, like, so we've got the fire, police, schools, and then we've got a big portion of it sitting down here, and it's like, but what is the true
Is it
cost?
proportional if you?
Right.
You know? It is interesting, I don't know why nobody ever does it, it must be one of those things that the accountants are gonna pull their hair out of, but we'll see.
Well, just for the budgetary purposes, like, to look at, like, what is the true cost of this department and that, like, if we're looking at it.
Yeah, I know, I understand what you're saying.
We can look into that.
Because it's such a big number, and it's only getting bigger.
Yep.
And that's why even like on the fall meeting, I know, you know, Sonia's not here, but it's like, I'm gonna channel her, it's like, OPEB, are we thinking of any of these resources that we have there to put a plan into place to start funding some of it?
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, one thing that we really want to do specifically with the money that does come in from, that extra money that's coming in from, whether it's Buds or any of the other marijuana establishments, is earmark that through a pie chart, that a certain percentage of this is going specifically every year to OPEB, and a certain percentage will be going to whatever other needs. But I think this committee ultimately decides, you know, how that pie is split up. I think it would be a disservice to funnel it into operating, because I don't believe that it's, you know, I think at a certain rate there'll be a sustainable amount, but I don't think it's gonna.
We don't know what that rate is gonna be.
Exactly.
And we
Right.
won't know what that rate is gonna
For
be
years.
for a while. So, makes sense.
Well, that's all I have on my liaison report.
So, question to you from our liaison side of things, searching for a new finance committee board secretary.
We're looking.
Russ?
But Russ is doing
Russ has-
such
I don't know
a
if
good
Russ
job.
has applied for the job.
Don't even start, guys.
It comes with a stipend.
Oh, boy.
I will try my hardest to make sure we have someone here by September. If no one, and it seems that no one who is currently here now, my thought though was, it seemed like it may not work to have this person not be here. And that makes it harder to fill the position. But, you know, Nancy does great for the Board of Selectmen as far as getting the minutes and knowing who said what and listening back. It might become a little more difficult. This is a very large committee.
Yeah.
So I think it gets a little more difficult for someone to identify just by watching Abcam who said what and what the topic was.
I think
It
Russ.
is hard. I mean,
Russ
I'll
can
tell you
speak.
tonight, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but, yeah. But on the bright side, I mean, whoever doesn't show up for the next FinCom is probably gonna be the next thing.
Yep.
Sounds like a plan.
I don't wanna steal all the fun, from everybody. I mean, I almost feel like a criminal if I were to take it for another year and just take all the
Take all the-
Yeah.
fun
I
for
mean-
myself. So I've gotta share it. It's my
Definitely.
civic duty to share.
Yeah,
I'm generous.
yeah.
How benevolent.
Daniel is thinking right now, I will never miss a meeting again.
What time is it in Tahoe now?
I think naturally it should be the newest person to the board, but then that's me, so I don't know how to adjust that.
Newest people to the board usually end up as statistician.
You haven't had one of those in a while, have you?
No, I haven't really had much need
Not
for
much
that
luck?
with stuff on the computer, so. I think that was our only question. Does anybody else have any questions for Scott?
Yeah, just from the cap, oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't have a question for Scott. It was for you in the team here.
Yep.
So, well, if you've got something for Scott, you can go ahead.
He said if you have something for Scott, his
Oh, okay,
question
all right.
is more for the board in general.
So you mentioned the capital plan. Is that the same as the capital improvement?
Yep. Yep, the capital improvement plan.
Okay, so do we have so according to bylaw, that's supposed to be done in January. So was that done in January, or are we still working on that?
This is a plan that we've hired a consultant to come out and do a long-term plan. We have a plan that has been used since prior to me starting here, that the department heads have put together. They update it. It's not a very good format, and that's why I hired the Collins Center to come out and actually meet with everybody. And it's been a long project. We did it with a grant. It was approximately $25,000, I want to say. But they've put together a very long-term, robust plan. They've met with all the departments. They've looked at all our needs. They've prioritized the needs. They've come back and said, have you thought of everything? Can we see your insurance list of buildings? What about this building? Anybody look at this? And so they're very thorough, and I think you'll be very pleased when you finally see the plan. But it has taken quite a while. And the reason I asked them to do it is other communities, and it was never done in any of the communities that I've been in, but other communities that have done it, and I want to see the first one that might have told me about it, might have been Dedham, but I'm not sure. And they showed me their plan. It was just, I'm like, how could we not do this? So yeah, to your answer, there is a capital plan out there, but it's
less robust.
Yeah, it's very, sort of ad hoc in a sense.
Because there's a requirement that it gets submitted to us and the Board of Selectmen in January, 6 months before the year end. And if somebody asks, I haven't seen it yet. So does it make sense to look at the bylaws and how that's drafted to if
Well, I wouldn't change the bylaws now, because I think once this plan is done, this is gonna be a plan that there'll still be, we formed a capital committee. And they haven't met since we first formed them and we kind of got into this project. Because that's what I found, is once I formed that committee and we looked at the plan that was existing and they started working on it, we decided it was just woefully inadequate. That's what led me to getting the Collins Center. That plan still exists, that original one. And they, would I work off of it? I prefer not to. We do pull things off of it when we do the annual budget and we say this is the capital that we're going to do this year. My thought would be is that committee in probably a slightly different form, because there's a lot of people on it that are on other committees that there's no sense in them being on it. Will be sort of the keeper of that, because it's still a living document. And still, we're going to find things 2-3 years from now to say, we should have probably, this parking lot all of a sudden went to hell. Now we're going to have to put this on the plan. And that plan will be the same plan that you'll see every January.
Okay, so when is the last time we actually had a capital plan?
You have one now. The last time it was submitted was probably, I don't know, wouldn't have been last year, probably the year before.
All right, can we get a copy of that? Can that be sent?
Sure.
Okay, whatever we have. Yeah, because January came and I knew we were in the budget process, so I didn't ask, but it's if you look at what the bylaws say, it's we were supposed to get it, we don't have anything. Whatever it is, it's just, to me, it's, if we have something, it's kind of like having a policy. You don't comply with the policy, what's the sense of having the policy?
Yeah.
So if we have something, I would, if we can just take a look at it, appreciate it. With the understanding that it needs work.
Yeah, what I'll probably do is send you the one that we have, the draft, and you can compare the two. But you'll see, if you see the draft one that we're working on that's not been submitted.
Yeah.
But I'll send you the one that we have.
Okay.
I think you'll find it pretty interesting.
Okay. Thank you. Excellent liaison report.
Yeah, my only question was, so we had reorg on the schedule, and I know we pushed that off, but what does that actually mean to reorganize?
So to reorganize the committee, we re-elect all of the leadership positions. We open up for new chairman, vice chairman, or chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, statisticians, first and second.
Got it. Okay, so that happens every year?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep, the start of each fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
You want to be nominated for chairperson?
I think he nodded.
That smile and not shaking his head no means yes. So
what is a statistician?
I think traditionally they have, especially before the budget was being kept on computer, they kept track of all of the numbers.
Okay.
And you had two people that would provide redundancy to back it up. But since I've been on the board, it has been largely ceremonial that has not done all that much.
Is that even memorialized anywhere? Like, I can't find where it's like, I
don't
get the
know.
chairperson and the vice chair, that makes sense. And the secretary, which I know, Ross, nobody wants to take that from you. But then the statistician 1 and 2, it's like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I've not seen it, and they didn't have it when I was on finance and with them. I don't know, maybe in Duxbury, nobody ever told me if they did. One of them was a statistician.
yeah.
I think largely though, if you probably don't have to go back all that far before to find days when the finance committee had probably a lot bigger role in putting the budget together and actually having to remember those numbers and bring those numbers. And I know, I don't even remember his name now. A gentleman in Whitman who was amazing at the numbers, who was on the chair of the finance committee, was like, the amount of work that he did, I mean, they should have been paying him. It was incredible. You should be paid too.
I should.
Stipend.
Any other comments, questions, discussions? There was nothing in the mailbox, so we don't have correspondence. We had our liaison report. Any other liaison reports? I see a lot of head shaking. Russ provided some minutes, but provided them very last minute, so we'll go over them at our next meeting. Our next meeting is at a time to be determined.
Most likely in September, early.
We'll probably have it before that, just to do our reorganization and stuff, but I will work with the committee to find a date that people will actually be available to meet. So, that being said, are there any other points of order, any last things people want to bring up, any motions?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Right.
Aye. It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.